The discovery the edge of known space fleet, Commander Zoreth stood before the observation window of the dreadnought Eternal Supremacy, watching the distant stars with an expression of practiced boredom. 40 years of service to the Caldronian Empire had taught him that most days in the void were identical. Patrol routes, status reports, minor disputes between merchant vessels. The galaxy had been remarkably peaceful since the Empire had established its dominance 3 centuries ago. His meditation was interrupted by the sharp tone of the tactical officer. "Commander, we have multiple contacts emerging from subspace. Sector 974. Unknown configuration." Zoreth turned from the window, his forearms clasping behind his back in the traditional posture of authority. "Unknown? We have catalogued every spacefaring species within 20 sectors. Identify them." The tactical officer, a young Caldronian named Vexus, manipulated the holographic display with practiced efficiency. "Cross-referencing now, Commander. The signatures do not match any known propulsion system in our database. Hull composition is unusual, very dense. Energy output is significant, but the source is unclear." Zoreth approached the tactical station, his curiosity growing. In 4 decades, he had encountered 17 different species. None had surprised him. They all followed predictable patterns: fusion drives or antimatter engines, energy shields or ablative armor, particle beams or missile systems. The technology varied in sophistication, but the fundamental approaches remained consistent across the galaxy. "How many vessels?" Zoreth asked. 7, Commander. They appear to be traveling in formation. Course suggests they are heading toward the Tertian colonies. The Tertian colonies. Those mining outposts had been under Caldronian protection for 60 years. They produced valuable rare minerals that fueled imperial industry. If these unknown vessels were raiders or explorers seeking to claim those resources, they would need to be educated about territorial boundaries. Communications, broadcast standard greeting protocols. All known languages. "Let us see who these newcomers are." The communications officer worked silently for several moments before responding. "No reply, Commander. Wait. Receiving transmission now. Audio and visual. Display it." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a face that made Zoreth pause. The being was bipedal, that much was clear from the visible upper body. Pale skin, bilateral symmetry, 2 forward-facing eyes, suggesting a predatory evolutionary history. Hair on the head, but not the face. The creature wore a uniform of dark blue, with insignia that meant nothing to Zoreth. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Confederation vessel Horizon's Edge," the being said. The translation matrix worked flawlessly, rendering the alien's words in perfect Caldronian. "We are a diplomatic mission representing humanity. We have come to establish contact with other spacefaring civilizations and to discuss territorial boundaries in this region of space. We come in peace, but are prepared to defend our interests if necessary." Zoreth studied the human carefully. Direct, professional, not fearful. That was interesting. Most species showed immediate anxiety when confronted by an Imperial dreadnought. This Captain Vasquez seemed calm, almost casual. "I am Fleet Commander Zoreth of the Caldronian Empire. You have entered protected space. The Tertian colonies and surrounding sectors fall under Imperial jurisdiction. State your intentions." Vasquez tilted her head slightly. "Commander, we were not aware this region was claimed. We have been exploring and expanding for several decades, and have not encountered any markers or territorial indicators. We would be happy to discuss boundaries and establish formal diplomatic relations." Several decades. Zoreth felt a flicker of something unexpected: concern. If these humans had been expanding for decades without encountering the Empire, that suggested they came from a distant region of space. That meant their territory was likely more extensive than the 7 ships currently visible. The Empire has maintained order in this region for 3 centuries, Zoreth said, allowing a note of authority to enter his voice. Species who wish to operate here do so under Imperial protection. This arrangement has proven beneficial to all parties. We offer security, trade opportunities, and technological exchange. In return, we ask for resource contributions and adherence to Imperial law. There was a pause. Vasquez seemed to be consulting with someone off-screen. When she returned her attention to the view screen, her expression had not changed. Still calm. Still professional. Commander Zoreth, humanity appreciates the offer, but we prefer to remain independent. We are willing to establish diplomatic relations, negotiate trade agreements, and respect your territorial claims. However, we cannot accept a protectorate arrangement. We have worked too hard to reach the stars on our own terms. Zoreth felt his secondary hearts accelerate slightly. Refusal. This primitive species was refusing Imperial protection. It was almost amusing. Almost. Captain Vasquez, I do not believe you understand the situation. Your vessels, while numerous, appear to be technologically inferior to Imperial standards. Your propulsion systems are inefficient. Your hull designs are simplistic. Without Imperial protection, you will be vulnerable to the many dangers that exist in deep space. Pirates, spatial anomalies, hostile species. The galaxy is not kind to those who venture alone. Vasquez smiled slightly. We have been managing those dangers successfully, Commander. But thank you for your concern. The dismissive tone irritated Zoreth. He had been patient. He had been diplomatic. But this human seemed to think she was negotiating from a position of strength. That misconception needed correction. Captain, I will speak plainly. You have 7 ships. I have 37 warships in this fleet alone. The Empire has thousands more throughout the galaxy. Your technology appears to be at least 2 centuries behind our current standards. If you refuse Imperial protection, we will be forced to ensure you do not interfere with established order. That means your ships will be escorted out of this region, or if you resist, they will be disabled and impounded. These are not negotiations. These are facts. There was a longer pause this time. Vasquez's expression became more serious, though not fearful. She appeared to be making a decision. Commander Zoreth, I had hoped we could establish friendly relations. Humanity has no desire for conflict. However, we also will not be bullied or coerced. Your assessment of our technology is based on incomplete information. I strongly suggest you reconsider your approach. Zoreth felt anger rising. This primitive creature was threatening him. Actually threatening the fleet commander of the Caldronian Empire. Tactical, power all weapons. Target the human vessels. Prepare to disable their propulsion systems. Captain Vasquez, you have one final opportunity. Submit to Imperial authority or face the consequences. On the view screen, Vasquez sighed. So be it, Horizon's Edge out. The transmission ended. The human ships continued on their original course, making no attempt to flee or change trajectory. Foolish. They were either unaware of what was about to happen or too primitive to realize the danger. All ships, commence attack, Zoreth commanded. Disable only. No lethal force. We want these vessels intact for study. Asterisk 37 Imperial warships opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams, designed to overload enemy shields and disable systems without destroying ships, lanced across space. Zoreth watched the tactical display, expecting to see the human vessels immediately lose power and Daoshin drift helplessly. Nothing happened. The beams struck the human ships and simply dissipated. No shield flares. No energy dispersal. The attacks appeared to be absorbed directly into the hulls. Report, Zoreth barked. Commander, Sensors indicate direct hits on all 7 targets. No damage detected. Their hulls are absorbing our energy weapons completely. The density readings are impossible. The hull composition appears to be compressed matter at a molecular level. We have never encountered materials like this. Zorith stared at the tactical display. Increase power to maximum. All ships concentrate fire on the lead vessel. The intensity of the barrage increased dramatically. Enough energy to vaporize a small asteroid hammered into the human flagship. The horizon's edge continued forward without any visible reaction. Then the human ships returned fire. 7 vessels launched projectiles. Not energy weapons, not missiles. Simple solid objects. But they were moving at velocities that made Zorith's tactical officer gasp audibly. Incoming fire. Velocity exceeds 40% light speed. Impact in 3 seconds. Commander, those are relativistic kinetics. We cannot evade at this range. 3 Imperial destroyers took direct hits. The projectiles punched through shields as if they did not exist, penetrated hulls designed to withstand antimatter explosions, and detonated deep within the ships. The destroyers did not explode dramatically. They simply stopped functioning. Internal systems cascaded into failure. Life support ceased. Power cores went dark. 5 more Imperial ships took glancing blows. Hull breaches on multiple decks. Casualties mounting rapidly. The human ships fired again, this time targeting the cruisers attempting to flank them. 4 more Imperial vessels went dark. Asterisk. All ships evasive maneuvers, break formation and retreat to safe distance. The Imperial fleet scattered, desperately trying to escape the range of those impossible weapons. Zorith watched in horror as his perfectly organized formation dissolved into chaos. Ships collided in their panic. 2 frigates crashed into each other, both vessels spiraling away with catastrophic damage. The human ships held position, not pursuing. Simply waiting, Zorith stood frozen on his bridge, unable to process what had just occurred. 7 human vessels had disabled 12 Imperial warships in less than 90 seconds. 12 ships, gone. Hundreds of crew members dead or injured. And the humans had barely moved. Commander, his communications officer said quietly, "We are receiving a transmission from the human flagship." "Display it." Captain Vasquez appeared on screen again. She looked genuinely sympathetic, which somehow made everything worse. "Commander Zorith, I did try to warn you. Humanity has been preparing for this day for a very long time. We knew eventually we would encounter species more advanced than us in certain technologies. So we focused on what we could control. Material science, manufacturing precision, kinetic weapons that do not rely on exotic physics. We cannot match your faster-than-light capabilities. But in direct combat, our ships are designed to win." Zorith found his voice, though it came out hoarse. "What do you want?" "The same thing I wanted before. Diplomatic relations. Respect for territorial boundaries. Trade if mutually beneficial. But not subjugation. Never subjugation. Humanity bows to no empire, Commander." She leaned forward slightly. "I am going to strongly suggest you report this encounter to your superiors, accurately and completely. Tell them humanity is willing to talk. But if they send more ships with hostile intent, the result will be the same. We do not want war, but we are absolutely prepared for it." The transmission ended. Zorith slowly sat down in his command chair, his 4 arms trembling slightly. Around him, his crew worked frantically to organize rescue operations for the disabled ships. Casualty reports flooded in. Damage assessments. Requests for reinforcements. "Communications," Zorith said quietly. "Priority alert to Imperial Command. Classification maximum. We have encountered a new species. They call themselves humans, and they have just fundamentally changed the balance of power in this sector. As the Eternal Supremacy began the long journey back to Imperial space, Zorith stared at the tactical replay of the engagement. 7 ships, 90 seconds, 12 Imperial vessels disabled. The galaxy had just become a much more dangerous place. And for the first time in 3 centuries, the Caldronian Empire faced an enemy it did not understand and could not easily defeat. Humanity had arrived, and they had brought weapons the Empire never imagined possible. The Reckoning Imperial High Command, Council Chamber of the Caldronian Empire, had witnessed countless deliberations over 3 centuries of dominance. Ancient stone walls bore witness to decisions that shaped the fate of dozens of species. Today, those walls would hear something unprecedented: fear in the voices of the Empire's most powerful leaders. Supreme Commander Thaldrus sat at the head of the obsidian table, his 8 council members arranged in their traditional positions. Before them, Fleet Commander Zorith stood at attention, his 4 arms rigid at his sides. The holographic replay of the engagement with human forces rotated slowly above the table, casting shifting shadows across concerned faces. "Explain to me," Thaldrus said, his voice deceptively calm, "how 7 primitive vessels destroyed 12 Imperial warships in 90 seconds. Zorith had prepared for this moment during the long journey back to Imperial space. He had reviewed the sensor data hundreds of times, consulted with every technical specialist in his fleet, and practiced his report until every word was precise. None of that preparation made this moment easier. Supreme Commander, our initial assessment was based on incomplete intelligence. The human vessels appeared primitive because we were evaluating them using conventional technological markers. Faster-than-light capabilities, energy weapon signatures, shield harmonics. By these standards, they registered as inferior. He manipulated the holographic display, highlighting the human ship designated Horizon's Edge. What we failed to understand is that humanity has pursued a fundamentally different approach to warfare. While we focused on energy weapons and defensive shields, they perfected material science and kinetic weapons to levels we did not believe possible. Chief Science Advisor Kelmer, an elderly Caldronian with deep cranial ridges indicating advanced age, leaned forward. "Commander Zorith, I have reviewed your sensor logs personally. The hull density readings you recorded cannot be accurate. The compression levels would require technologies that violate our understanding of atomic structure." "I thought the same, Advisor. But our sensors recorded identical readings from all 7 vessels. Human ships are constructed from matter compressed at the molecular level. Their hulls are not protected by shields. They do not need shields. The hulls themselves are denser than any material in our database. Our energy weapons simply heat the surface slightly. They cause no structural damage." Thaldrus stood and walked to the holographic display, studying the human vessels with an expression that mixed curiosity and anger. "And their weapons? These kinetic projectiles?" "Relativistic mass accelerators, Supreme Commander. Simple tungsten alloy slugs accelerated to 40% light speed. Each projectile carries kinetic energy equivalent to our largest antimatter warheads. Our shields are designed to deflect or absorb energy weapons. They cannot stop solid matter moving at those velocities. The projectiles pass through shields, penetrate hulls, and detonate inside our ships." Defense Minister Krex slammed his hand on the table. "This is unacceptable. We have dominated this sector for 300 years. No species has ever challenged our military supremacy. Now you tell us 7 human ships defeated 12 of our warships without sustaining damage?" 16 ships, Minister, Zorith corrected quietly. 4 more were destroyed in collision incidents during the retreat. The final casualty count is 843 dead, over 2,000 injured. The council chamber fell silent. 843. The Empire had not suffered casualties like that in a single engagement for over a century. Supreme Commander Thaldrus returned to his seat, his expression thoughtful. What do we know about human territory and military capacity? Intelligence Director Silith activated her personal data tablet, projecting additional information into the holographic display. Our intelligence on humanity is disturbingly limited, Supreme Commander. They appeared in explored space approximately 40 years ago. Initial contacts were minimal. They seemed content to establish colonies in unclaimed systems and avoid interaction with established powers. She manipulated the display, showing a map of known space with human territories marked in red. Current estimates suggest humanity controls approximately 70 star systems. Their population is difficult to determine, but conservative estimates place it at over 40 billion individuals. They have industrial capacity that rivals smaller stellar nations. Asterisk 40 years, Thaldrus mused. And in that time, they built a fleet capable of defeating Imperial warships. How many ships do they possess? Unknown, Supreme Commander. Based on observed patrol patterns and colony defense requirements, we estimate minimum fleet strength at 300 vessels. Maximum estimates go as high as 1,500. Minister Krex stood abruptly. 1,500? Even if only half possess capabilities similar to those Commander Zorth encountered, that represents a significant military threat. We must act immediately. Assemble the Grand Fleet. Show these humans the true power of the Empire. And if we lose? Chief Science Advisor Kelmer asked quietly. The question hung in the air like a physical presence. Thaldrus studied each council member carefully before responding. Intelligence Director, I want comprehensive information on humanity. History, culture, technological development, everything. I need to understand how they achieved this level of capability. Defense Minister, begin discreet mobilization of additional fleets, but do not initiate hostile action. We will not make the mistake of underestimating them twice. He turned to Zorth. Commander, you are the only Imperial officer to survive direct combat with human forces. I am assigning you to a special task force. You will study their tactics, their technology, their approach to warfare. If we must fight them, we will do so with complete understanding of our enemy. 48 hours later, the asteroid field in the neutral Kesher system had served as a smuggler's haven for decades. Imperial patrols rarely ventured into the treacherous maze of rock and ice. It was the perfect location for a clandestine meeting. Asterisk. Commander Zorth's stealth shuttle drifted silently between asteroids, sensors at maximum sensitivity. The encrypted transmission had been brief but clear. A human representative wished to speak with him privately. The message had been delivered through channels that should not have existed. The fact that humans possessed those channels suggested their intelligence network was far more sophisticated than anyone realized. Contact bearing 271, his pilot announced quietly. Single vessel. Human configuration. No weapons powered. They are broadcasting identification codes. It is the horizon's edge. Zorth felt his secondary hearts accelerate. Captain Vasquez herself had come to this meeting. That suggested whatever she wanted to discuss was significant. Signal her position. Standard diplomatic protocols. The human vessel approached slowly, making no aggressive moves. When it came to rest relative to the Imperial shuttle, a communication request appeared on Zorth's console. Captain Vasquez appeared on screen, looking remarkably relaxed for someone meeting with a representative of an empire she had recently humiliated in battle. Commander Zorth, thank you for coming. I know this meeting carries significant risk for you. Captain Vasquez, your message suggested this conversation would be worth that risk. I am listening. Vasquez nodded. Commander, I am going to be completely honest with you. Humanity does not want war with the Caldronian Empire. We respect what you have accomplished. 3 centuries of relative peace across dozens of star systems is impressive. But we cannot and will not accept subjugation. Your military capabilities suggest you need not fear subjugation, Zoreth replied. Our military capabilities exist precisely because we do fear subjugation. Commander, let me tell you a story about humanity. Vasquez leaned back in her chair, her expression becoming distant. 400 years ago, humanity was confined to a single planet. We had just begun exploring our own star system. We had wars, conflicts over resources and territory, and ideology. Millions died in stupid, preventable conflicts. Then something changed. We detected signals, radio transmissions from deep space, evidence that we were not alone in the universe. And that terrified us. Because if there were other species out there, species more advanced than us, we would be vulnerable. We could be conquered, enslaved, exterminated. The fear unified us in a way nothing else ever had. She pulled up holographic images. Ships under construction. Massive industrial complexes. Research facilities. We spent 4 centuries preparing, Commander. Not preparing to conquer. Preparing to survive. We knew we could not match species that had been spacefaring for millennia. So we focused on what we could control. Material science. We learned to compress matter at the molecular level, creating whole materials that could withstand any weapon we could imagine. Manufacturing efficiency. We built automated systems that could construct warships in weeks rather than years. Kinetic weapons. Simple physics, devastating effect, immune to energy-based countermeasures. Zoreth watched the images carefully. The scale of human industry was staggering. Shipyards orbiting dozens of worlds. Manufacturing facilities that dwarfed anything in imperial space. Why are you telling me this? He asked. Because I want you to understand what you are facing. The 7 ships that engaged your fleet represent our oldest designs. We have been building newer vessels for the past decade, faster, better armed, more resilient. If the Empire forces us into total war, you will lose. Not because we are better warriors, but because we have spent 400 years preparing for exactly this scenario. She leaned forward, her expression intense. But we do not want that war, Commander. War means millions dead on both sides. Destroyed worlds. Shattered economies. Generations of hatred and conflict. There is a better way. What do you propose? A treaty. Mutual recognition of territorial boundaries. Non-aggression pact. Trade agreements. Cultural exchange. Everything the Empire would normally offer a protectorate species, except we remain independent and equal partners. You keep your empire. We keep our independence. Everyone benefits. Zoreth considered carefully. The Empire has never recognized another species as equal. Our entire structure is based on hierarchical integration. What you propose would fundamentally change 3 centuries of policy. Then change the policy. Commander, your empire is powerful. But it is not the only power in the galaxy anymore. You can adapt to that reality peacefully, or you can force humanity to prove our military superiority repeatedly until the Empire's power base crumbles. Those are the only 2 options. A conversation continued for another hour. Vasquez provided detailed proposals, territorial maps, trade calculations. Everything necessary to present a comprehensive treaty to the Imperial Council. When the meeting finally concluded, Zoreth found himself in an unusual position. He believed the human captain, the Imperial Council, 1 week. Later Supreme Commander Thaldris listened to Commander Zoreth's report in silence. The proposed treaty terms were displayed on the holographic projector. Around the table, Council members exhibited varying degrees of anger, shock, and thoughtful consideration. "This is capitulation," Defense Minister Krex declared. "We are the Caldronian Empire. We do not negotiate as equals with species that have barely left their home system." "They have left their home system quite effectively," Chief Science Advisor Kelmer observed dryly. "And they have built a military force specifically designed to defeat us. Pride is a luxury we may no longer afford, Minister." Intelligence Director Silith activated her data tablet, adding new information to the display. "I have completed comprehensive analysis of human territory and capabilities. Their industrial output exceeds our own by significant margins. Conservative estimates place their total fleet strength at 800 vessels, with production rates suggesting that number increases by approximately 50 ships per year. If we initiate total war, we will face an enemy that can replace losses faster than we can inflict them." Supreme Commander Thaldris stood and walked around the council table slowly, his hands clasped behind his back. 3 centuries ago, our ancestors built this empire through a combination of military strength and diplomatic wisdom. We offered protection and advancement to species that accepted our guidance. Those who refused were conquered. That approach worked because we possessed overwhelming technological superiority. He stopped walking and faced his council. We no longer possess that superiority. Not against humanity. They have built weapons and defenses that counter our military advantages. Continuing traditional approaches will result in catastrophic losses. So we simply accept their terms? Minister Krex demanded. What happens when other species see that the mighty empire bowed to human demands? How many others will refuse our guidance? What happens when we fight humanity and lose? Kelmer countered. How many species will see that weakness and rebel? At least by negotiating, we maintain dignity and establish humanity as an exception rather than a defeat. The debate continued for hours. Arguments for and against. Military assessments. Economic projections. Political calculations. Finally, as the planet's sun set beyond the chamber windows, Supreme Commander Thaldris called for a formal vote. The result was narrow but decisive. 5 council members in favor of the treaty. 3 opposed. "Very well," Thaldris said quietly. "Commander Zorith, you will return to the Kesher system. Inform Captain Vasquez that the Caldronian Empire accepts the proposed terms. We will recognize human territorial sovereignty and establish diplomatic relations as equals." He looked around at his council members. "History will judge whether we made the correct decision today. But I believe our ancestors would approve. They built this empire through strength and wisdom. Sometimes wisdom means recognizing when strength alone is insufficient." 6 months later, the treaty signing ceremony took place aboard a neutral station in the Kesher system. Representatives from both civilizations gathered in the main assembly hall. Holographic recorders documented every moment for historical archives. Captain Elena Vasquez, now promoted to Admiral and appointed as humanity's chief diplomatic representative, stood across from Supreme Commander Thaldris. Between them, the treaty document appeared in holographic form, written in both Caldronian and human languages. "This treaty represents a new era," Thaldris said formally. "The Caldronian Empire recognizes the United Earth Confederation as a sovereign power. We pledge peaceful coexistence and mutual cooperation." "Humanity accepts this recognition," Vasquez replied. "We pledge to honor Caldronian territorial claims and to engage in fair trade and cultural exchange. We look forward to learning from your 3 centuries of experience maintaining interstellar peace." Both leaders signed the holographic document. As they did, applause echoed through the assembly hall. Not enthusiastic applause, more like the sound of people acknowledging something significant and inevitable. Later, after the formal ceremonies concluded, Vasquez found herself alone with Commander Zoreth on an observation deck overlooking the station's docking bays. "Your people are not happy about this treaty," Vasquez observed. "Many are not," Zoreth admitted. "They see it as weakness, as abandoning 3 centuries of imperial dominance. And you? What do you see?" Zoreth was quiet for a long moment, watching ships come and go through the docking bays. "I see survival, Admiral. Your captain spoke truth during our first encounter. Humanity prepared for this day for 400 years. My people spent 300 years believing we were invincible. That belief would have destroyed us eventually. Perhaps you have taught us necessary humility." Vasquez smiled slightly. "Or perhaps we have simply demonstrated that there are multiple paths to strength. Your empire maintains peace through protection and hierarchy. Humanity maintains independence through preparation and deterrence. Neither approach is wrong. They are simply different. Different approaches that nearly resulted in war," Zoreth pointed out, "but did not, because both sides chose wisdom over pride. That is worth celebrating, Commander." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the ships. Human vessels and Caldronian vessels, moving through the same space without conflict. It was a small thing, but it represented something unprecedented. 2 powerful civilizations, choosing cooperation over conquest. The galaxy had changed. The age of unchallenged imperial dominance had ended. But perhaps something better had begun. An age where strength and wisdom could coexist with independence and mutual respect. Humanity had arrived in the stars, not as conquerors, not as subjects, but as equals who had earned their place through 4 centuries of relentless preparation. And the Empire, after 3 centuries of dominance, had learned that sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when not to fight. The future remained uncertain, but for the first time in a very long time, it held possibilities that neither species had imagined. Asterisk.